The first two episodes of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man have now premiered on Disney+. It's been a long and weird road leading up to the release of this show, and all the way through, I have been extremely critical, doubting that this would at all be worth watching. But now that the show is finally here, I'm going to be trying to put all my biases aside and just judge it for what it is, even if the voice actor of Spider-Man is saying some foolish things online. At the end of the day, I'm a Spider-Man fan, and if you give me something that fulfills my love of the character, I'm gonna be happy. So I'll be giving you my review of the first two episodes, my reaction to some of the things going on, breaking down little tidbits here and there, but I also really want to hear from you guys. What did you make of the first two episodes, and will you be someone continuing on the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man train? Alright, so quickly overall, before I get into specifics with each episode, I'm gonna say I am pleasantly surprised so far with the way the show is going. It's actually doing a lot of things that I have been missing or wanting to see in the MCU Spider-Man world. We know at one point that's what the show was going to be, is the origin story of Tom Holland's Spider-Man, until they decided to switch gears into an alternate version of MCU Spider-Man, explaining a lot of the parallel events that'll happen throughout the course of the first two episodes. And although yes, we get hints that superheroes are still everywhere left and right, like a little Iron Man reference, a Captain America reference, this Spider-Man doesn't feel like he's gonna be watered down and being forced to join in the adventures of these heroes, and instead we could just see Peter Parker and Spider-Man do Peter Parker Spider-Man things. So kicking things off with the beginning of the first episode, we open up in Queens in an apartment very similar to that of Tom Holland's in the MCU. The Easter eggs start right away with Peter having fallen asleep reading an amazing fantasy comic, this being the comic run where Spider-Man made his debut in issue 15 of Amazing Fantasy. And it's the classic Peter shenanigans I like to see. He's a nerdy little kid with a broken phone who's late for school, misses the subway to get to school, the show then making it look like he's about to pull out his Spider-Man suit and just swing to school, but instead is a big old fake out because this Peter has not yet gotten his powers. Now, the first thing that really surprised me about this show was the car ride between Peter Parker and Aunt May because of this line.
And it'll be nice, to have something to distract from everything else that's been going on.
I heard that and I was like, looks like we're still going to be doing the MCU thing of not mentioning the words Uncle Ben. We can allude to maybe something tragic happening in Peter Parker's past, but we are not allowed to say.
May, I just want to say thank you. Things have been different without having Uncle Ben around, but you've always been here for me.
Oh my God, they said it! They said the word! What? In the first 2 minutes of this animated Spider-Man show, they did what the MCU couldn't do in 3 movies.
Look, when you can do the things that I can, but you don't, and then the bad things happen.
May cannot know. I cannot do that to her right now. I mean, everything that's happened with her,
We know Tom Holland's Spider-Man had an Uncle Ben, but it felt like the dude was Voldemort, and you were not allowed to talk about that tragedy. And the reason for that felt even more sealed when we would find out that Aunt May is kind of this version of Peter's Uncle Ben.
And with great power, there must also come great responsibility.
And I didn't mind that. I just thought it was so weird that the MCU thought it was best to ignore such a central figure of Peter's life. So honestly, major brownie points were earned just for the fact that we actually get an Uncle Ben mention. I don't need to see him get shot. That tragedy having occurred in Peter's life and him being aware of it, I think is a good step for the character. Very interesting that they decided to do it before he gets his powers, so I wonder if the show continues on, maybe we get a flashback to that moment and a valuable lesson was learned from that, but I guess we'll wait and see in the next couple episodes. From there, we arrive at Midtown High where a portal opens up and this alien symbiote and Doctor Strange come out. Now, I'll admit, this is some of the things I was really worried about and I'm still not sure how to feel about as the show continues on, but the origin for this Peter Parker is that he gets bit by a spider, not from his dimension. These two characters, this alien symbiote and Doctor Strange, are not from this world. One reason we know that is because Doctor Strange says,
"Wait, where are we? Oh no, we're not supposed to be here."
And Peter is not familiar with who this person is.
Some kind of magical wizard guy?
In a world full of superheroes, you think people would be able to recognize whenever one of those superheroes arrives to save the day. So I'm going to be curious to find out why they thought they needed to make a spider come from a different universe to bite Peter. I mean, that's extremely similar to the Miles Morales origin in the animated movies right now, and that's created a whole anomaly and situation where Miles was never supposed to be Spider-Man. I don't think they'd want to mimic that story here with Peter, so I don't know. We'll see how that turns out, but as far as how this fight goes and Doctor Strange and this symbiote, really cool stuff. I'm still not a huge fan of the animation, but when it's actually in action and characters are fighting, I think it's suitable enough. It's fluid. I like the camera movements, and even see heroes outside of Spider-Man do heroic things like Doctor Strange commanding his cape to go save a kid and then sweep the area to also make sure no other kids are in danger. Like, I just like that. It's little details like that that go a long way in these superhero shows. Just like this small detail of Peter pre-Spider-Man powers acting brave and wanting to save a stranger who will eventually become one of his best friends, Nico. It's a detail I like because, again, it shows you even without powers, Peter is an honorable person that just wants to help, even if he knows he's outmatched. But Peter is, of course, eventually bitten. He passes out, and we do see this spider does not die. Instead, it latches onto another backpack where a random kid will pick it up and go off. I gotta imagine that spider will come back into play and somebody else is gonna be getting some sort of Spider-Man power. I tried scrubbing through the first 2 episodes trying to match this backpack and feet to another kid in class, but I had no luck. Maybe you guys will. But interesting of them to already set some stuff up like that. That's then where we get into the title card sequence for this show, and the music is hit or miss. I've seen some people say that it's like corporate rap.
Yeah. Hey. There we go, there we go, there we go again, swinging through the city.
I don't hate the theme song. I think it's okay. If anything, I just love more the visuals attached to the title card sequence. Really is giving off those early Spider-Man comic issues from the 60s, and I guess that's the vibe the show is going for. So I'm happy with it, even if it's no spectacular Spider-Man opening. That's a banger. But then that jumps us forward a few months, and Peter has now had plenty of time to make his own homemade suit. Again, not one of my favorite versions of the homemade suit in all of Spider-Man's history.
Is my suit really that bad?
But I actually do kind of like the detail of him having little strings attached to a pipe to help with his spiderweb shooting. It'll be things like this where we'll get to see his suit evolve, and from all the concept art, it looks like we're gonna have a ton of Spider-Man outfits throughout the course of this show, and seeing that evolution will be nice. As long as Peter is the one mainly upgrading his suit, I know he's gonna be gifted a couple of suits, but I would still like Peter to be the one mainly tinkering with his suits. Hats off also to the swinging sequences. Like or hate the animation or not, the camera work and the fluidity in these swinging spider sequences better than what's been happening in the MCU. I know it's one of the most cliche complaints about Tom Holland's Spider-Man is his swinging scenes, but I'm being honest, if scenes like this translated into live action, I would be one happy camper. From here is where we get to see Spider-Man meet up with some of the supporting characters that'll be a big part of the following season. We get a sequence of Peter saving Harry Osborn from some thugs who were streaming. The first love interest for this Peter will be a girl named Pearl, who was actually his babysitter at one point. I did think that was kind of funny when Peter was slowly putting the pieces together that she wasn't there to hang out with him when they were kids, but that she was actually babysitting him.
No, I was, like 11 and a half and she was 14.
Did they pay her?
Yes, they paid her.
But probably right now, the most intriguing supporting character of them all is Lonnie Lincoln. He's the school's starring quarterback on the football team. He's also dating Pearl, the girl that Peter is interested in, and you think maybe he'd be the Flash Thompson of this show. Immediately, whenever I hear a name in the Spider-Man show, I have to do some Google searching to be like, is he gonna be somebody? And yeah, funny enough, Lonnie Lincoln is supposed to eventually become Tombstone, a very notable crime boss in the Spider-Man mythos. But when Peter interacts with him, the guy is very nice, humble, sweet. He's actually interested in getting an education. He knows he's good at football, but he doesn't want that to be his only personality. And kind of most shocking at all was when the show decided to focus on him heading home, where he lives in a more rough part of the neighborhood. On the way home, he even gets racially profiled twice, one from this old lady not wanting to sit next to him, and another one by a cop driving by him. These feel like the obvious signs of the world is gonna chew this kid up, spit him out, and he is going to become this evil boss because of it. And us watching that transition is gonna be very interesting. And now I can see why the people who saw all 10 episodes were saying that the supporting characters are actually treated with love. Because even just seeing the way Lonnie comes home and interacts with his family, wanting to help his younger brother with homework, take out the trash, fix his mom's car. This is a sweet young kid who's about to go down a really dark path, and that's sad. And well, one more thing before we get to the ending of this episode, I really loved this sweet moment Peter had after he stopped a burglar from stealing money from a pizza shop. Spider-Man has a conversation with the owner of the restaurant saying, look, she made a mistake, she's sad, she regrets it. Maybe we could just let her off with a warning. To where the pizza man agrees and even offers Peter some free pizza.
Pizza time.
Did you say free pizza? Thanks.
Whoa! He stole that guy's pizza!
And again, it's little things like that that just feel like Spider-Man, that have that grounded, friendly neighborhood feel.
I mean, it's ultimately up to you, but he was just down on her luck. I don't know. Maybe let her go just this once. You made a mistake. Just please don't make me regret this.
And it's also something I don't think we've ever really seen done before in other mediums, where Peter is conflicted. It's like, yeah, she was a criminal, but it's like she's having a bad day. It's rough out here. Talking the owner into maybe a warning and letting her go, that just feels Spider-Man-esque, and I like that the show is doing this. But of course, this episode then ends with recreating the moment that Peter in the MCU meets Tony Stark. Instead, it is Norman Osborn waiting to offer him an internship. Having the episode end there, and just that alone, it put a lot of my worries and doubts down. So hopping into episode 2, hoping it can kind of keep that momentum, it will for the most part, but there are some things that are starting to be set up that I am again being a little worried about. So Peter gets to begin his internship at Oscorp Industries, where we meet some other supporting characters. One of them even being an exchange student from Wakanda.
I am Asha, and I hail from Wakanda.
Wakanda forever!
Kind of again just filling out this version of the MCU, but the most notable one was this co-worker of his named Amadeus Cho. Now that was a name I didn't need to Google because I'm familiar with that being one of the most recent iterations of the Hulk. And I don't just think you randomly throw in characters like that unless you're gonna make them the Hulk somewhere down the line. So we'll see how that goes. It's the worry about bringing in all these different elements of the MCU where I wouldn't like them to overshadow the kind of Spider-Man stuff we're seeing going right now. They could just be there in name and not end up being the characters they become. Like Dr. Whitman here is supposed to be a Fantastic Four villain known as the Wizard. Maybe he'll end up being that, or maybe he's just there in character name alone. But after a couple of minutes here, Peter is then assigned to the energy department of Oscorp, where he gets to meet his version of Dr. Curtis Connors.
Hi, Peter. I'm Carla Connors.
Who in this timeline is a woman. And again, that doesn't bother me. It doesn't make me mad. I know to some people they're just going to be annoyed with it. I'll more be annoyed with it if they don't do the things I've been wanting them to do with Dr. Curtis Connors since he showed up in the Tobey Maguire movies. And that's basically just include the family element of Dr. Connors and how he has this other life, kids and a wife who need him, and it makes it difficult for Spider-Man to take him down whenever he does become the Lizard. As of right now, there's not much of a sign to that, but it's one setup that you know this person is probably going to become the Lizard somewhere down the line. Other things to mention about the second episode is we are still seeing Peter have this need for responsibility anytime he sees something in danger. That's another aspect of this show I'm really digging because that's true to the character, whether Peter is in class or at an important internship. If he sees that danger is nearby, he feels he has a responsibility to go fix it, even if that means it's going to cause damage to his personal life. Classic formula for Spider-Man problems. And the fight he ends up having with Butane, I thought was also entertaining. It had some of that classic Spider-Man stuff of his web shooters being limited in what they can do in terms of damage. The sequences of him in the pet shop trying to save all the little pets, I also thought was nice. I did think it was super funny though that this criminal was burning the wrong building.
We're on 51st Street. You're burning the wrong building down, dude.
Either way, Peter manages to save the day, gets stuff done, heads back to Oscorp, where he is then sent to Norman Osborn's office where security footage reveals him changing in the stairwell of Oscorp Tower, Norman Osborn now knowing he is Spider-Man. To me, I'm going to be interested to see if Norman Osborn actually already knew he was Spider-Man before this, because just the way he invited him into Oscorp and was telling him, hey, I need you to come to my office your first day, and when he mentioned that to his colleagues, everybody was laughing at him like that's not a normal thing for Norman to do. I feel like he was already deducing that he was Spider-Man, and now this footage was just the 100% proof he needed to show to Peter that, hey, I know. Their partnership throughout the course of the episodes is also going to be interesting because we know Norman is going to be the one who gives him the Future Foundation suit. And it's probably going to end up having Peter do a couple of missions for him that seem innocent, but then he soon realizes he's being played. Overall, though, like I said, I'm liking the direction of the show. I'm not completely in love with it yet. I'm curious where the next couple episodes will take us and how some of these arcs will differ from other Spider-Man stuff, but consider me willing to say I was wrong, and I am happy to sit back and watch this every week it comes out. I'm curious to hear from you guys. Did you like the first couple episodes of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man? What you think the show is doing well? What you think it can improve on? Anything, everything. Be sure and like, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.